Alright, I thought I'd do a quick overview and mini review for Oneechanbara Origin. Sorry, it's kind of hard to say both of those words at the same time. it's quite the tongue twister. I did beat this game on PS4. The main issue I had with it really was just the fact that the frame rate was really bad in this game. Unlike the first game, or not the first game, but the last game that they put out, which was Oneechanbara Z2 Chaos. Your defensive options actually matter here, and your defensive options, not your defensive options, but the enemies actually fight back as well. Both the regular enemies, the mooks and the bosses actually fight back. So having the defensive options actually work is nice on paper, but on the base PS4 version, I don't know if it's just my PS4 or what, but it was constantly like chugging. It was like struggling to run. This port in general, it's been fine for me, but a lot of people have reported issues. I know that the developer and the publisher are aware of it, so there probably will be a patch. In any case, let's just go ahead and explain some of the mechanics here. I'd like to point out that this game had Oneechanbara Z2 Chaos had like a full training mode before DMC5 even existed.
Let's go.
Probably around the same time that game entered development. Never thought a game like this would be very progressive in terms of the game design, did you? Anyway, you have two characters, two weapons. If you played the last game, it's pretty similar. You have your cool combination. You still have dodge offset as well. Where do I go to check the moveset? Oh, here we go. So the moveset's not that large, but because you can switch between both of them at any time and you can also tag, it kind of doesn't really provide much of an issue. It's kind of similar to the the Orochi games. Those movesets are quite small by today's standards, but since you can switch between three characters, it works out. That's kind of how it works out here. You get your full moveset at level 15, which means that by the end of your first playthrough, you'll get everything. Most of the New Game Plus or subsequent playthrough progression is through the rings. There are a couple rings that you can buy. I'll have to back out of here to show you guys, but the rings provide some pretty cool things. Like this one is just strength, but this one makes it so that you can get easier timing windows on the cool combos. So let's turn on the cool combo window. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining this stuff because this is pretty standard Oneechanbara stuff. So let's switch Saki in. So if I switch back to Aya, who does not have that ring equipped yet, see the window is much smaller.
Leave it to me.
So let's back out and actually put him on attack so that you guys can see the defensive options. Defensive options are really satisfying in this game. I was genuinely surprised at how good they are. The last game had pretty good defensive options too, but due to the way that the game was designed, you never really had to use them that much. It was better to just use ultimate combinations for like the 5 seconds of invincibility. The window's not too small, but it's not too easy to get either. So the difference between the two defensive options is that the parry, it has a much smaller window, but it increases their stun gauge. See, like that stunned him right there. Now, if I do the just dodge, you notice my meter is increasing a ton.
You're all going down.
So, for control, one of the better things to do can be to just dodge a couple times, get meter, and then use a super to get everyone away. Now, on bosses, it's kind of more of a personal preference from what I've seen. Dodging has a much less tight window. The window is a lot less strict, so you might want to dodge and then just go into a super to get some free damage in. Alternatively, you could parry like this and get a stun. So you also have what's called a cool finish. It's basically like a QTE. But what's cool is that you can tag during it. So, say you use Saki. Saki's cool finish will actually guarantee kill an enemy. You can switch out like that while she's in that animation, and you could be fighting someone else and popping a super. Now, tagging in this game does not feel as good as the last game. I think that's probably my biggest complaint with it. But this game is not really about crazy combos anyway. It's mostly about crowd control and learning the boss's movesets, which is not really something you had to think about in the last game. In the last game, the just dodge and the counters did like no damage at all. Whereas in this game, the enemies will actually be fighting back. There also are red zombies, which are basically like angry zombies. They attack a lot more and they have a lot of armor. So on them, you might want to parry, because that way you can stun them. There is also a Bloody Palace when you beat the game. There is a bunch of DLC. I should tell you guys, if you think you'll like this game at all, judging from my footage or somebody else playing, or you played at someone's house or whatever, I would recommend buying the Deluxe Edition, because this game has a misleading amount of DLC. It reminds me a lot of Dynasty Warriors 9's DLC. Like, if you look at like the store page for that, it has like $500 in DLC or whatever, but it's really just like $60 or whatever for all the season passes, and that gives you everything. But they have everything in the same menu, including all the officer tickets for the trial version. So obviously, if you bought the game, you would never want to buy that. In this game, pretty much everything is just frivolous stuff. It's music and skins. There are a couple extra missions. I would recommend buying those. I haven't actually got them myself, but those will only run you a couple dollars. You probably get that and the music. If you played the past games, you might like that for a little bit of variety. But other than that, the other stuff is completely cosmetic. So don't write the game off because you see like $93 of DLC. Okay, so let's play for a little bit in hard mode.
Looks a little rough.
I'll try to show off some of these mechanics.
Let's go.
I have so much stuff to do today. I have 9 Monkeys of Shaolin, Neo DLC, and then there's a KOF update.
My blade's losing its edge. Time to shake off the blood. We're all going down. Stand back. Leave it to me.
I do wish the tagging felt a little bit more responsive. But this game has a very different feel to it compared to the last game. You know, if you just want to do combos, then the last game is better, but if you want a more balanced and well-designed experience, I think this one is objectively better. As much as I love Z2 Chaos, it is not a well-designed game. Feels like cheesing the bosses is like what the developers intended, because they didn't really give you adequate tools to deal with the bosses otherwise. Whereas in this game, you have tools to deal with everything. It's just a matter of how you use them. Okay, so let me show the shop. So rings are going to be your main source of progression. When you level up, you can just choose generic video game stats. You have health, attack, and defense. The rings are what actually changes how you play the game. Like there are some, like this one makes your cool combo easier to use. This one makes parrying easier to time but reduces defense. This one gives you a better window on your just dodge. Now you have to buy 2 of these for each character, so if you want to have both characters actually like decked out, you'll have to buy these twice. And that's where the gold sync is going to come from. If you look at the items don't really cost much of anything. So pretty much all your money is going to be going in here. Let's get the... Where is it? The Ring of Technique for
I definitely need this.
Aya. Sometimes I get them mixed up.
This ring looks great with my sword.
The abandoned hospital's in this direction.
Sounds good.
Also, this game has no gimmicks in its design whatsoever.
You should
So if you're like me and you can't stand that stuff, this is probably a good fit for you.
I was gonna take them all out anyway.
Nothing scares you in the slightest, does it? By the way, I had a peek at your phone and saw that message from your sister.
Another one of your stealth operations, huh? And what of it?
Well, I was shocked. I mean, die, won't you? Who talks like that to their sister? So, does your little sister have a grudge against you or what?
Who knows? After all, we're practically strangers.
Really? How come?
Well, for one thing, we have different mothers. Telling me it's is not right out.
Wow, your family's pretty complicated.
Say that again.
I've got sisters too. I guess we get along alright. But sisters can be a real pain.
This game is stylish in its own way. It's just not an off-the-wall, out-of-control tag combo game like the last one was.
But I get the feeling if I keep track of
The first one will always have a special place in my heart because of how fun it is to play
Maybe.
once you learn how to break it, but this game is a much better overall experience in my opinion. So every time you level, you'll get some attribute points. I mean, this is pretty standard video game stuff, just health, attack, and defense. Not really much to say here. The normal difficulty is actually quite easy. I recommend playing on it because you don't have that many moves in this game to begin with, and you won't have your full moveset until you're pretty much at the end, because by the time that you get Saki, you're about halfway through the game already, and it takes her some time to get her full moveset too, so you really only have like the last maybe 20-30 minutes of the game with the full moveset for both characters. So that's what I recommend personally, is playing on normal. It seems like you could play on hard and be just fine though. I generally like to play action games on just the normal difficulty first,
You're a big freak, aren't you?
because a lot of times they're more fun when you have more tools.
My info says there's a large undead man on the rampage in the area. He overswings a lot and his attacks offer openings, but be careful. He's powerful. But knowing you, it's nothing you can't handle.
Well, that's pretty vague. But thanks. I'll dice him up real good. Slice to pieces. It's over now.
Whew, starting to get a little rough, is it? Your baneful blood gets excited when you're covered in the blood of others, doesn't it? And when that excitement reaches its peak, it makes you go berserk, right?
Yes, here it comes. Now we're having fun.
Those of the baneful bloodline are even scarier than the undead. They really are fascinating.
We're all going down.
Sorry about that, I thought my mic muted. No splicing was done in this very hardcore gameplay overview.
We're all going down.
He's back.
Got your back. Father taught me this.
I think he's scripted. Gonna leave again.
You're all going down.
Alright, so there's a little tidbit of the gameplay. In terms of the length of the game, it took me, skipping pretty much all the cutscenes, it took me about maybe 2.5 hours to finish it. Which might be a turnoff for some. I think the biggest problem with them localizing this game is that they're asking $60 for this when it's basically the length of maybe a really long arcade beat 'em up, like one of the IGS ones that are like 2 hours. For $60, you know, I like the gameplay in this enough that for someone like me, who's very passionate about these games, it didn't particularly bother me, even though I did get a review key for this. But if you're the kind of person that only plays through these kinds of games once, I can't really recommend buying it at its asking price. You can get through the game pretty quickly. The campaign is it's no BS. There's no gimmicks or anything, but there's also no secrets either. So you don't have like a DMC or Ninja Gaiden type campaign where there's lots of secrets to look for and things. Pretty much all your progression is on the rings and your move set. But like I said, unlike a lot of other character action games, you get pretty much all your tools on the first playthrough. The only thing you really have to get from there is extra superpowers and your rings, and that's literally it. So, if you're looking for like a meaty kind of game, I would probably recommend Assault Spy over this because that game is very mechanically fun and deep too.
I
It
don't
also
like
does
this.
have a tag mode, and
It's
it's
too quiet.
like a third of the price of this. But if you're thirsty for another character action game, I can't recommend this enough. I thought all but 2 of the boss fights were quite good, and for a character action game only having 2 bosses that I didn't like fighting is actually not bad at all. I mean, even games like DMC 4 and 5 have their fair share of crappy bosses. You know, there's Gilgamesh in 5, there's Gigapede in 3, there's Arkham in 3, and the Savior in 4, and you can argue the Pope Sanctus is not really that great of a fight either. So I thought all the fights in this were actually quite good. You actually have to dodge their attacks, and if you actually learn their movesets, you can take them down quite quickly. It actually feels very satisfying to pull off. It is not stylish in the same way that the first game was. The first game was just, let's just give you 4 characters with a massive amount of moves, and enemies that don't attack, and bosses that don't stagger, so you just learn how to break the game and you just rip through it. That game will always be fun for that reason, but if you're looking for something more meticulously and professionally designed, I think this game is actually pretty good. It's just the worst part is the asking price. They're asking $48 for this on PC right now, but it's $60 with the deluxe edition. So when you consider all that, I don't know if this is really worth $60. If you're the kind of person that can play through this multiple times, you know, they do have a bloody palace and stuff, so if you just like interacting with the combat, I mean, to be fair, DMC4 is one of the highly regarded games in this genre, and that game is basically a bloody palace simulator. Once you finish the campaign, you know, the people that have like 5,000 hours in that game probably played through the campaign like 4 times, and the rest of the time was in the bloody palace. So it does offer that. There are some DLC levels which I haven't bought yet. Today was kind of a mess. I bought the game initially, and then I got my review key right before I left for lunch. So I had to issue a Steam refund and then get the review key that the publisher themselves sent me. So I don't have any of the DLC. Once I get my characters a little bit more tuned up, then I'll probably do that as well. Anyway, I hope that helps you guys. Overall, if you have the spare cash, I think this game is worth it. But like I said, if you only play through these kinds of games once or twice, it's probably not worth what they're charging. The price that they're charging, I wouldn't call it highway robbery, but it's definitely odd because if you don't know the history of this series, it started out as the Simple 2000 series, one of the games in the Simple 2000 series, back towards the late era of the PS2, and that basically is like equal to $20. So when you consider that these were originally budget games for the longest time, and then they want to charge $60 for this, when it still very much looks like a PS2 game. The campaign is a lot like a PS2 game, but there are some good aspects of that, even though it's not up to our modern graphical standards. But the fact that there's no gimmicks, it's basically just large rooms of dudes to fight, is something I sorely miss in modern game design. So if that's your kind of thing, I recommend it, but you might want to wait for a sale otherwise. Thanks for watching.